Okay, in the assignment distributive property problem set, what it's asking you to do is take story problems and turn them into equations that include the distributive property. Now the distributive property is, if you were to take something like, maybe 2 times 3 plus x, you got parentheses like this, you distribute throughout. Okay, so 2 times 3 would be 6, plus 2 times x would be x, and then so on with the rest of the problem. Okay, so that's what it's asking you to do here. Now, with this equation, well, let's just look at the first one. The instructions say write an equation to solve each problem. Apply the distributive property and show all steps needed to find the solution. Think about whole numbers to think about whole numbers to use to solve each problem. Write a sentence that tells the answer of the problem. What that basically says is write the equation and then solve. So let's look at number 1, for example. Mr. Davis bought solar lights for the pathway at his house. Okay, so this is a story problem. Now the difference between a story problem and a word problem, story problems deal with like scenarios that help us understand kind of a real world scenario for it. So when we get a story problem, we want to focus on the story and imagine it, picture what's going on. So in our heads, we need to picture Mr. Davis buying the solar lights. Okay, the light costs $29.95. Okay, so that's an important piece of information. Each light costs $29.95. We want to remember that. Each and have an additional delivery charge of $2 per light. Okay, so that seems important, so I'm going to try to remember that. How much did Mr. Davis pay for 7 solar lights with delivery? Okay, well, let's think about what's going on. He pays $29.95 for each light and have an additional delivery. So we're going to say plus $2 per light. So every single light he has to pay that, no matter what. That's just what he has to pay. With that in mind, he is having 7 solar lights. So there's our distributive property. Okay, and let's go through and go ahead and solve this. 7 times $29.95. For that, I'm going to use a calculator, and that comes out to be 7 times 29.95, 209.65. So all I'm doing is taking the 7 times that number, and that's 209.65, and then plus 7 times 2 is 14. So I take those two numbers, add them together, and I get 223.65. Okay, now I know simply you could just add them together and say 29.95 plus 2 and then times that by 7, and you would get the same answer. But remember, we're dealing with distributive property, and so that's what it wants to see. It wants to see how well you can set up the distributive property. So we did the 7 times that, 7 times that, got those, added them together. So now it says write a sentence. Okay, he will pay $223.65 for 7 lights. And then you're done. So let's look at number 2. It costs Edgar $2.65 one way to ride the bus to work. He uses the bus to go to and from work for 4 days per week. He buys a bottle of water that costs $1.45 on his way to work each day. How much does it cost Edgar to ride the bus and buy a bottle of water for 1 week? Okay, again, let's try to visualize this in our head. He's riding the bus to work. So this is home and that's work. Okay, he's riding the bus to work and he has to pay $2.65. And he's riding the bus home from work, and the bus still costs $2.65. Okay, so now we've got both rides on the bus. But in addition to that, he buys a bottle of water only to work, and the bottle of water costs $1.45. He does not buy one coming home. Okay, so now we say, all right, we need to set this up. Okay, how many days is he riding to and from work? Okay, he's riding for 1 week. Okay, he uses the bus to go to and from work 4 days per week. So 4 days. So we need 4 of all of these. Well, how do we set that up? Visually, we can see it, and we say, all right, we're going to have 4 times that, 4 times that, and 4 times that. So set it up like that. 4 times all of that, 2.65 plus 2.65 plus 1.45. Okay, because remember, he goes to work, then home from work, and then he buys 1 bottle of water as he's going to work. So now we have it set up. And we can set it up like that. We can say 4 times 4 days. He rides to work, so $2.65. Plus, he buys a bottle of water, $1.45 on the way to work there. And then he's got to ride home, plus $2.65. Okay, now let's distribute. And we say, okay, 4 times 2.65 is 1060. And we'll distribute 4 times 1.45, and we get 5.8. So positive 5.80. And that's going to be the same as here, so plus another 1060. Now we add those together, and we get 1060 plus 1060 plus 580, and we see he spends $27 a week. Okay, so he spends $27 each week. Okay, so I'll let you do the rest on your own, but that's how you do it. You just set it up and figure out, you try to visualize what's going on, put yourself in the story, and then write it out and solve it. I hope this helps. Let me know if you have any more questions.